Good afternoon. The heat wave's over. From the KUOW newsroom, this is Seattle Now. I'm your host, Paige Browning. Coming up, we'll hear from the ranking Democrat on the Senate Appropriations Committee about the war in Iran, Washington's own Patty Murray. But first, a roundup of today's top stories. It's Thursday, July 23rd. ICE agents just finished the latest in a series of raids in the Bellingham area. Cascadia Daily News reports that immigration enforcement agents detained at least 2 people Wednesday in the town of Linden. Setting the scene here, temperatures were in the 90s there. Workers at a seafood processing plant saw folks offering water across the street who appeared to be with a religious group. Soon after, workers are seen on security camera fleeing from ICE agents. The news outlet reports immigrant advocates say 44 to 50 employees have been detained from this one plant, Premier Packing, in the last 4 months. Neither the plant owner nor ICE replied to requests for comment yet. Researchers at the University of Washington say federal authorities are still accessing Washingtonians' license plate data despite a state law meant to protect it from being shared for immigration enforcement. Gustavo Segrero has more.
Researchers at the UW Center for Human Rights say federal immigration officers accessed state license plate data at least 50 times in June to make an arrest. Director Angelina Godoy says that's a problem.
More action needs to be taken to bring this practice into compliance with state law, which specifically prohibits Washington's sharing of Washingtonians' private information for purposes of civil immigration enforcement.
The June arrests took place around Seattle's World Cup matches, where immigrant advocate groups were already concerned about ramped-up enforcement. Back in March, Governor Ferguson's office said they were working on options to limit the level of access federal immigration enforcement had to Department of Licensing data, but would still allow access for non-civil immigration public safety concerns. Gustavo Segrero, KUOW News.
A brief story in tech is also top of mind today. AI layoffs. Yep, I said layoffs. Amazon has laid off an unknown number of employees in one of its artificial intelligence units. The company confirmed to the Puget Sound Business Journal that the cuts were in the group building a hypothetical AI system that learns and solves problems autonomously. Since last fall, the tech giant has laid off 30,000 corporate employees worldwide, including nearly 2,200 workers locally. City news. Seattle's mayor has seen some high turnover among high-profile city positions. Scott Greenstone has more on the latest departure.
Mayor Wilson's deputy communications director, Sage Wilson, who isn't related to the mayor, has acted as her spokesperson and press secretary for the last 7 months. He's leaving August 4th, he announced in an email to mayor's office staff obtained by KUOW. Sage Wilson didn't comment on the record, but in his farewell email, he said he's better suited to advancing a progressive vision from outside the mayor's office. Mayor Katie Wilson has overseen a number of staff changes in her first 7 months. Her advisor on homelessness and housing resigned. Her chief of staff was reassigned. Mayor Wilson fired her comms director. Some of these positions remain unfilled. The mayor even posted that top communications job on Instagram last week, looking for applicants. Scott Greenstone, KUOW News.
The Seattle City Council may have a plan to pay for free school meals for all students, after all. This comes after they voted to delay that program yesterday. Casey Martin reports.
The council passed a measure Wednesday that would pay for free meals, specifically for low-income students at school and on the weekends and holidays. It stopped short of universal free meals for all students. Council President Joy Hollingsworth and others said it was too risky to approve a full program without stable funding. But one day later, Hollingsworth joined 2 other council members on a second plan to cover free meals for all public school students. It would be paid for by the city's general fund and would double the number of schools in Seattle that currently offer free food. Now, both amendments head to the full council for a vote. If approved, free meals would start this fall. Casey Martin, KUOW News.
Something the council already decided. Seattle City light rates are going up. The Seattle City Council has approved 2 9.5% rate increases for the next 2 years, which is basically $10 more a month for the average customer. Seattle City Light says it's needed to cover demand, inflation, and upgrades. In our environment beat today, fires, red flags, and green energy. We'll start there. Washington state is dead last in the country at adding clean energy to its electric grid. Environmentalists and construction workers are calling for reforms to make it easier to add power to the grid. John Ryan reports.
Despite its green reputation, the evergreen state trails all other states in the share of wind and solar power added to its grid over the past decade. That's according to an investigation last year by Oregon Public Broadcasting. Building new transmission lines has been the main holdup. Environmental groups are calling on the state to let transmission lines run in the underused land along highways. Frustrated energy developers blame state regulations and the Bonneville Power Administration. That's the federal agency controlling most of the Northwest power grid. With demand for power skyrocketing, the clean energy bottleneck means more pollution. And electricians who thought they'd be building climate-friendly infrastructure by now say their unemployment rate is 3 times the state average. John Ryan, KUOW News.
Washington's losing some of its green this week as wildfires continue to burn in parts of eastern and central Washington. Here's the latest on wildfires. 2 small towns about 10 miles south of Vantage on the Columbia River are under Level 3 Go Now evacuation orders after another fire broke out late last night. The railroad fire has burned about 1 square mile, and as of this morning, 7 homes have been lost. Meanwhile, a red flag warning is in effect today through Saturday for the Colville Reservation, where the Kaiser Canyon fire has now grown to over 85,000 acres, and people are evacuated. You may not feel it right here in Seattle, but know that elsewhere aid groups are being stretched to their limits. KNKX's Gary Davis has more.
The Red Cross is partnering with the Colville tribe to provide shelter and food for evacuees. The relief agency's Betsy Robertson says the organization is stepping up volunteer recruitment as shelter needs change quickly.
That is the focus that we have right now going into this last half of the summer. It's just increasing our capacity, our people power to open these shelters.
Robertson says this fire season has already shown our region's increased volatility because it got an early start.
I can't remember opening wildfire shelters before my daughters got out of school for the year, right? So we were already sheltering before the end of the school year. That's the earliest I can remember.
She also remembers 2020, when 3 major fires erupted over the Labor Day weekend on a single day. I'm Gary Davis reporting.
Ending today's news on a cheerier note, Outlook's back. Early today, thousands of Microsoft customers across the country reported outages, but by about 1 p.m., the Redmond-based company posted on social media the issue had been investigated and resolved. Hope you got your emails where they needed to go. Now for our feature story. We're nearly 5 months into the war with Iran. 18 U.S. service members have been killed and nearly 500 have been wounded. This week, Washington Democratic U.S. Senator Patty Murray co-chaired a contentious Senate Appropriations Committee hearing. The focus was a $67 billion emergency supplemental funding request from the Department of Defense. Pentagon officials say they needed the funds to support military operations. Senator Murray talked with KUOW's Kim Malcolm about the hearing and other matters.
Senator, welcome.
Good to talk to you always. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming. Well, at the start of your questioning with the Defense Secretary, you said this to Pete Hegseth.
This administration has tried to sell this as an emergency request, but it may be better understood as an attempt to skirt the normal appropriations process.
You told Hegseth this request did not make sense. What about it doesn't make sense?
Well, a lot of it doesn't make sense. The fact that they are asking for billions. In terms of what you just played, what I was saying is what I look at their actual language and what they sent to me, they were asking for items for the Pentagon that should have been asked for us in our regular appropriations process. Now, why is that important? Because they are asking us for an emergency supplemental. That means not paid for. That means added to the debt of this nation, a cost that will be on us for years to come. They ask it through appropriations. It has to be paid for. We have to figure out what the balance is. If we do this, what is it going to cost us? How are we going to pay for it? What do we lose out? Instead, they are coming to ask for this money only by adding it to the debt, and to me, that was outrageous.
I'll note there are more Republican senators who are openly voicing concerns about the war against Iran now. But today, the Senate voted to block a resolution that would have directed President Trump to withdraw U.S. forces from that conflict. How do you see this playing out in the coming weeks?
Well, I will tell you, I was disappointed in the vote today because we have had Republicans supporting us in the past on a resolution on whether we should support this war, and that didn't happen today. What I see Republicans doing is they're afraid of the president, and we're coming up on an election, and that scares them. So I have come to the conclusion in my mind that the only way we are going to stop this war, bring our troops home, and make those investments that we need for our military in a strategic war for the global needs that we do have is to get the majority back so that we can have those votes and do that.
Well, political tensions are still high, and I'm wondering what your approach is right now with your Republican colleagues.
I think that's such an important question. It's an important question for me here in the Senate with tensions high. It's important in families across this country who see somebody who doesn't agree with them as the enemy. I think we all have to take a breath, me in the Senate, families, people who live in neighborhoods, everybody, and say, just because somebody disagrees with me doesn't mean they are enemies. It means that they have a difference of opinion. So I try to bring that with me to the Senate every day, and when someone says something that I don't agree with, I can point out that I disagree with them, but don't call them the enemy.
Senator Patty Murray serves as the vice chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee and has been a member of Senate Democratic leadership since 2007.
You can hear the full conversation with Senator Patty Murray on our website, KUOW.org. Next time on Seattle Now, it's Casual Friday, and Seattle is loving its new mascot, hero, and inspiration, Jimothy. But so does everybody else. How much Jimothy is too much?
I hope that we can still hold close to the early days of Jimothy a week ago.
Hear that and more Friday morning. That's all for today from the KUOW Newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and I'm Paige Browning. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. Catch you later.